Ladies and gentlemen, having been invited by Carlo Petrini to give the opening address at the very first Terra Madre event in Turin in 2004, I cannot tell you how delighted I was to have received an invitation from Frank Roy to address the first indigenous Terra Madre gathering in India. I need hardly say that I am extremely sorry not to be with you in person. Now, as Pope Francis recently said in his encyclical Laudato Si, indigenous peoples are not merely one minority among others, but should be principal dialogue partners. For them, land is not a commodity, but rather a gift of God, and from their ancestors who rest there, a sacred space with which they need to interact if they are to maintain their identity and values. Yet, in our modern world, we are totally disconnected from the wealth of traditional knowledge that has, up to now, guided countless generations to understand the significance of nature's processes and economy. How has the world come to face such a plethora of intractable problems? In the 40 years or so that I have been attempting to understand and address this question, I have tried to ask myself what it is in our general attitude to the world that is ultimately at fault. And I've come to realize that the essential unity of things, as reflected in nature, has become dangerously fragmented and deconstructed. The modern world has shifted away from the holistic, indigenous cosmology of seeing ourselves within nature to us standing apart from it. So, if we wish to maintain our civilizations, we must look after the earth and actively maintain its intricate balance so that it achieves a state of harmony and health. But we have fallen short, and consequently, the sustainability of the entire system is collapsing. In failing the earth, we are failing humanity. Indigenous peoples, like all of us, are standing at a moment of substantial transition where we face a worldview and an economic system with enormous challenges, paired with an environmental crisis, including climate change and excessive population growth, which threatens to affect us all. Of course, we have achieved extraordinary prosperity since the Industrial Revolution, but we in the industrialized world have increased our consumption of the Earth's resources to such an extent that, as a result, our collective demands exceed nature's capacity for renewal by some 25%. With this in mind, how can we better empower all communities to create a participatory economic model that safeguards culture, diversity, and the environment, one that makes a clear distinction between the maintenance of nature's capital reserves and the income it produces? By looking to indigenous wisdom, we can develop an approach that acts locally by thinking globally, just as nature does, with all parts operating harmoniously to establish a coherent whole. I wanted, therefore, to offer my warmest congratulations to the organizers of this unique gathering of indigenous food communities, not only for defending indigenous food sovereignty, but also for envisioning future food systems that maintain the resilience of the entire ecosystem by promoting rich biodiversity. You, ladies and gentlemen, are a model for linking traditional indigenous thinking with modern science as equal partners, a beacon of inspiration for others to learn from. We stand here at an historic moment where we can only enable a transition to living within our planetary boundaries if we adopt a more reverential approach in recognizing that we are not separate from nature, but actually part of it, and that if we listen to the wisdom which is still embodied in your cultural and spiritual traditions, we can find the guidance we need to live in harmony with the world around us. Now, I have no doubt that the necessary spirit of leadership lives within your communities, and I wish you all much strength and good fortune in your efforts to influence a more positive future for humanity during the coming days.